Good morning, everyone. Today I'd like to talk about our new preschool program that will be coming out probably in September. And I'd like just to go back to the basics, back to the theories that are the basis of this new program and was also the last program. And sometimes it's good we're in the bathtub, we're in our curriculum, and we kind of forget what was the underlying theories that created this program. And I would just like to remind you so that when we see this new program come in, we have the idea, oh, this is why such technique is being promoted. This is why we have to think about this play, going outside, and the above. So, as you know, social interactions are very complex, and wherever you are in the world, in space and time, depending on the different eras, children have been treated in a variety of different ways. What is it about the way we teach children today? Well, culture has a lot to say about that. For example, a very funny story that happened to me a couple of years ago. My daughter was 4 months old, and I'm from the Gatineau region, so I went back to my family that was over there with my 4-month baby, and all my friends were there, my family was there, and we passed her around, she was having fun, and then when we wanted to sit down to have our coffee, I put my daughter on we call it in French, our tapis d'éveil, on her little exercise mat. And she was happy as can be, smiling, playing with her little tutus. And then my brother-in-law, who's from Ecuador, comes in and he's looking for, oh, where's Simone? Where's Simone? And he's looking at us, he can't find her, where's Simone? And then we kind of look at each other funny and we say, well, she's there on her exercise mat, and he just lunged. Did she fall? What is she doing on the floor? What is she doing on the floor? And we really had this very intense conversation because in Ecuador, you would never put a child on the floor. What he said his culture is that you keep the child on, there's a village of people, everyone passes the child around, the mother always has her on portage, and the kids are never on the floor unless they're crawling to go on the floor. So it's a completely different intake on independence. They believe their culture drives them to keep their children as close as can be until they want to detach. And for us, it seems to be a little bit different. We're trying to push them away as fast as we can. It is a little bit of the underlying culture we have in North America. Well, this being said, sometimes you have to face your own culture and you evolve in it, which is fine. But when you go to education, there has to be a decision made because we can't all teach differently. And the preschool program has an underlying approach, and this is what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. What is the underlying approach of the program? And also, why is there this debate? Well, a couple of years back, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Quebec, the government of Quebec, decided that there really needed to be early intervention for children because they wanted to make sure that there wasn't this gap in learning. They wanted to help kids with their learning difficulties. So they created the 0 to 8 approach that really focuses on supporting children from 0 to 8 in a very intense way. But how to go about it? There were two main approaches that were discussed. The first one was an academic approach, and the other one was a global development approach. Now, what is the academic approach? It's centered on initiating children to academics, which are words, math, and scientific reasoning. What is the global development approach? It is an approach that respects the natural learning style of the children, which is play, discovery, and experimentation. If we go a little bit deeper, where do each of them come from? Well, the academic approach comes from France, dans les salles d'asile from the 19th century, where they would welcome children from the milieux ouvriers, so vulnerable milieux, or working families that were suspected to be unable to fully educate their children. So they were the children that needed to be filled. You needed to fill in the gaps. There were lacks, so the teacher had all this knowledge. She needed to pass it on to the children that would never have the chance, they believed that would never have the chance to know about it. It is centered on the belief that child must be filled with the knowledge The child needs certain specific tools to learn, and if they are not present, then they will most likely have learning difficulties. So if you can't pass the knowledge as fast as you can, then there will be learning difficulties. Prioritizes cognitive development and knowledge acquisition linked to academic disciplines. So like our elementary program, it's really linked to math, to French, to English, to reading, to science and stuff like that. It's a very systematic and explicit teaching method. All comes from the teacher's point of view. They have the knowledge, they must transfer it to the students who are lacking it. So that's the academic approach. Now, the developmental approach, it comes from the German kindergartens of Froebel in the 19th century. So at the same time, there were two underlining completely different approaches. It was seen as a transition between family and school, where autonomy and free expression was encouraged for the children. And it's an approach where children express what makes them unique from inside. They're like gardeners, the educators, and they will give the best conditions to make each unique plant blossom in their own time, in their own way. It privileges an active learning of the children in a stimulating environment where all competencies are to be useful: physical, motor, affective, social, cognitive, and linguistic tradition. It's not explicit. It's you do this activity, and in such an activity you will touch all of the competencies. That was the kindergarten approach. And an educator's role would not be transmitting knowledge, but supporting children's learning by accompanying, supporting, and enriching their exploration and their play. So, two different approaches. Academic was, I know, I will teach you, and the global development is, you have this innate potential, I will support you so that you can find what works for you and you can touch all the competencies. It comes from inside the child to out. So, what do experts say? Because if you look at this little diagram that I made here, that I will be sharing a link in my YouTube video, the developmental approach, learning for life skills. Academic is school maturation. Overall development for the developmental approach, psychomotor, language, social, affective, personal, cognitive, artistic, and cultural. The academic is mostly cognitive. Developmental respects children's natural way of learning, which is play, activity-based, communication, experimentation. Academic is math, reading, writing, verbal expression. Developmental, realistic and authentic exposition to numbers, letters, and scientific concepts in everyday life. Academic is introduction to the contenu and methods relative to elementary teaching. So it's like elementary school. What do the experts say? Because they actually say that both approaches have their reasons, and we cannot shove away the academic approach because they see it in their everyday life. They have explicit teaching. They're naturally exposed to words, mathematics, and science in their daily activities. They see their parents read and write, listen to stories, classify their toys according to size or color, observe nature, and ask questions. So there is that academic approach that does come from them also. It's not to be pushed away. However, it is false to believe that only a direct approach will make children learn these important abilities. That's what's important. Academic approach is positive on the short term, noticeably for reading and writing. So they will learn quickly, but it's a short term. Developmental approach has shown to be more effective over the long term when children learn by play and exploration, since it's coming from inside them. They're acquiring it for themselves, from themselves. The academic approach also has the side effect of making children more anxious and dependent on the adult than the developmental method of teaching. So, when they created the preschool program, they did choose the developmental approach. And this is why there's such a big importance put on play, put on exploration from them. You're teaching through play. You're not teaching them and then going to play. There's really that aspect of play, which is the center base. And there's a wonderful article that I will, unfortunately it is in French. I will also have the link of it. This is where I took this information, which talks about these two different approaches, why the government, all the ministries, the Quebec government, the Ministry of Education, the Ministère de la Famille, they have decided, they have concerted, and they do say that the best approach for preschool education is the developmental approach. Now, my role will be to support you as much as I can, and this is why I keep on pestering you with play. But there is a lot of ways in which we can make this happen. And just a quick overview, I've talked about it before. Why is play so important? Well, it really comes from the child. Everything they do in play, it has no consequence, so they can test their self-confidence, they can make mistakes, it doesn't matter. And they can learn to let go of their frustrations through play. They do see all sorts of confidence. They're moving, it's motor, they're interacting, they're social, it's cognitive because they're wondering how many blocks can I put one over the other. It touches everything. So you have to trust that through their play and through your guidance of their play, that they will grow to be the person they were meant to be. Someone might know about planets, someone might know about dinosaurs, someone might know about the body because that's what interests the child. But if you ask them to count, well, he's going to count planets, he's going to count the number of hairs you have on your arm, someone else will be counting the number of dinosaurs he has in his bag. That's what's so wonderful about play, is you can touch all the competencies that we have in our program coming from their point of view, and it makes it authentic. So, to conclude, why is it so important to touch both approaches? Well, you can teach children early, but keep in mind that the developmental approach has more positive effects on the long run. It respects every child's unique rhythm of learning and interests, and it starts from what they like, the center of their own development. Prioritize play, not only because it stimulates all competencies at once, but also because it's a motivating and authentic context in which the child can take risks and be supported by the attentive eye of an adult. We really do need to support our kids through these things also. Now, just to finish, I would like to say, you can't make a flower grow by pulling its stem. You need to water it, feed the roots, and watch it grow into the wonderful flower it was meant to be. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.